Guys, we need to be patient with the Democrats. You can't expect people who don't know the difference between men and women to know the difference between a king and a president.
Hey guys, we got a great show about the No Kings protest coming up right after this. Dude, as soon as we start, the dogs go nuts, man. It's just crazy. What's up, Dan? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, man? The intro was so good, it played twice.
Man, I was over here fiddling with it, trying to get it to work. It didn't go. It didn't go like it needed to. But hey, I guess we didn't have a glitch in the matrix every time we did a show. It wouldn't be the Driveway Liberty podcast at all.
This is true. This is true.
Well, guys, welcome to the show. I am Wes, and is obviously my good buddy Dan here hanging out with you tonight. We are so excited about tonight and what we're going to talk about. We'll hopefully educate you, entertain you, and just make you think. That's the idea here. First thing before we get into the No King stuff, and we've got some revelations coming up with that on how it's paid for and all of that. But you got to stay through the whole show to hear that, because that's kind of towards the end. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about this White House expansion that's going on. Trump is trolling everybody with these Trump Tower mock-ups and all this stuff. And everybody's up in arms, worried about tax dollars. But Trump has donated the money and secured donations from others for this White House expansion. And you know what? When's the last time the White House has actually been updated? And it's about time.
It's been a while.
And who better to do that than a guy who's built buildings for a living his entire life?
I love that meme you sent me where it's got a Trump Tower sticking out the side of the White House.
Yeah, I think I've seen the actual mock-up, but that one's kind of funny that he's trolling. He's such a third grader, man. He just
yeah. But these these anti-Trump people just fall for it left and right and go ballistic.
Oh yeah, they
It's
lose
like,
their mind. Absolutely, they do. It's
it
just
reminds me of like throwing bread in the water and the carp coming up and just going crazy and sucking it up.
yeah, it is nuts. Hey, we want you to join the conversation tonight. You're just as much part of this show as we are. And it's like sitting in a driveway, man, talking politics with your friends. That's kind of the way this show was founded. And that's the kind of the way we like to keep it. We tried to get a little fancy last week and get a little more formal, but that's not us. So we're not going to do that tonight. Another thing that's going on is this Venezuelan beef, I believe. Isn't it Venezuela or is it Argentina?
Argentina.
Yeah. A lot of people are up in arms about this, and I actually did a little research on it today. And you don't have to believe me. You can go out there and do your own research. And as a matter of fact, I'd rather people do their own research on this stuff. Don't take my word for it because I'm just as biased as you are. But if you will go out and look, I saw several videos from actual cattle ranchers today, and one of them brought up some good points that really stood out with me. And it was the fact that American beef is at an all-time high right now, number one. Number two, most cattle ranchers don't want to even sell their cows for meat right now because of that. It's more valuable to breed them. And number three, and I got a number four too. I made the number three sound like it was the last thing I was going to talk about. Number three, most of the beef we're eating right now, according to this cattle rancher, is coming from South America already, from Brazil and I think he said Colombia, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm going off of memory, and that's starting to fail me in my age. And then number four, which was probably the most poignant thing he said, is right now, if we were to butcher every cow on the cattle ranches, I'm not talking about hobby cows or hobby farms or people who have dairies, but if we were to butcher every cow, we'd only have enough meat for about 300 million people. Well, if you paid attention to most recent census, we're up to about 400 million people. So we don't even have enough in our beef supply right now, which is part of the reason they're going up. That and the tariffs, the price of meat. We wouldn't even have enough to feed the U.S. So we rely on shipping beef in from other countries already. So if we could help a struggling capitalist system in South America by buying beef from them, by God, let's do it.
Well, I don't understand why people on the left are upset by that. They love us buying things from China.
Here's the thing, and I have to remind myself when it's the other dude in office, is just because you can't stand the guy that's in office doesn't always mean that everything he's doing is bad.
It's true.
And it's, but we've been taught to hate the opposing side so much that we don't have the wherewithal to sit back and say, well, that may be a good idea, or that may work, or that policy may work. And that, I mean, that,
well, we're so divided at this point that there's a significant portion of America that is cheering for the failure of America in order for the current president to fail.
Oh,
like they don't want him written in the history books as anything but a clown or a joke.
Sure.
And I don't think they're going to change that and affect that in any way, because the reality of it is the people who are out there having rallies and cheering for the destruction of America are the ones that are the joke.
Yeah. I mean, it's
crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. It is ridiculous to sit back and make assumptions just because you hate the dude that's in office. And look, admittedly, I'm just as guilty of it. When Obama was in office, you have if you don't like somebody, you have a tendency to dismiss everything they say.
But the hate is manufactured. It's not real. Like everything they hate him for, 99% of it is propaganda and made up garbage.
Yeah, they've been manipulated to hate him. is
Yeah.
what's up. Yeah, that's absolutely.
And
correct.
you can't reason with him. You can't make him see anything otherwise. And
No, you cannot.
sometimes it's fun to try.
It is. And speaking of that type of manipulation, and there are, look, I know, what was it, Dr. Wesley, what's his name that we had on, the geologist that talked about global
Oh yeah,
warming?
I don't remember his last name.
Ingram. His last name was Ingram. Dr. Ingram, we had him on a couple of times last year, year before. And he was a big cabal guy. You know, he was big on this whole conspiracy. And I'm starting to lean on seeing that and thinking about that. And that's part of what we'll talk about tonight when we get to talking about who's behind the No Kings protest. Speaking of which, you know, you just mentioned that we're divided. And really, and we've said this last couple of weeks, it's hard to envision how we're going to come back from this as a country without it coming to blows and war. And the left likes to paint the right as violent, as fascist, as dangerous, as extremist, as militant. But
Well, that's a projection.
that is absolutely projection, and this next video is going to absolutely prove that.
We gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out. The state machinery that's a full display right there has to get wiped out.
Man, I know.
Does that guy know that Obama deported more illegals than Trump?
Oh no! If he does, he doesn't want to admit it. That's the problem. That's the absolute problem.
And the right is the violent ones. Yet the left continues to shout for violence, be happy when violence happens against people on the right. Well, they justify it. They justify everything. I mean, we saw. I don't think this is in a video, but I watched, in following this whole No Kings protest thing, I watched a lady doing this, pointing to her neck as a car
she
go
was
by with an American
teacher or something, wasn't she? In Illinois, wasn't she a teacher?
I think so.
Yeah, I didn't include that.
When people get on there and say, yeah, this person got fired, blah, 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 I tend to not take it with a grain of salt. Because most of the time that stuff's false.
I don't think she got fired.
Remember the lady who stole the ball from the kid at the Philadelphia Phillies game?
Yeah,
that viral video that went everywhere.
And
well, there was a whole bunch of rumors about that lady getting fired, and she was this job and that job, and it wasn't true. And then eventually it caught up with her, and she did have some serious problems in her professional life after that.
Well, I mean, you taking a ball from a kid. Yeah, you absolutely should. I don't know. I didn't include that video in anything in our show assets tonight, but, that woman's clearly doing this. And the guy asked her, are you glad Charlie Kirk's dead? You don't hear a lot of the audio. You hear her shouting, but there is a follow-up question. And somebody, whoever's behind the camera, says, are you glad that Charlie Kirk's dead? And she said, yeah. Yeah.
What's wrong with people?
You know what, Dan? They truly believe, a lot of them do. I don't want to overgeneralize. A lot of them truly believe that the right is fascist. Because that's what they've been told.
It makes no sense.
Dude.
If you knew what fascism is, it's literally the opposite of what the right is.
All right. But labels, as we've learned, like racist, misogynistic, now the new one's pedo lover because you support Trump. It is all meant to bypass legitimate discussion and argument, and go straight to shutting you down so my side so you can hear what I'm saying.
And it just, the divide and conquer promotes division. 100%.
Absolutely.
They want us at each other's throats, so we're not paying attention to what's happening.
But, you know, like I said, some of them honestly believe that, but a lot of them don't even know what their stances are. And here's a great example. Well, before we get into that, let's hear what Speaker Mike Johnson has to say about this situation.
It was quite ironic, though. The irony was very glaring. They called it the No Kings Rally. But the great irony, of course, that we pointed out over and over was if President Trump was a king, the government would be open. If President Trump was a king, he would have closed the national parks and the national mall, so they couldn't have had the rally out here. By the way, that's what President Obama did during the shutdown in 2013, closed all the parks and the national mall.
So, I mean, you know, they don't even know. I mean, they're using the No Kings mantra. So, again, trying to redefine some terms. Hey, Deborah and John, thank you guys for joining us and jumping in on the conversation. It is evil versus good. It is absolutely evil versus good. It's right against left, but right against wrong. I mean, it truly is. And we've talked about it the last couple of weeks that on that side, morality is subjective. And man, we will do what did I say that guy's name was last week? Yuri Bezmenov. He was a defective. He was a KGB operative that defected the United States in 1970. And he went on the speaking circuit and he described the strategy that the Soviet Union used that is being, I mean, you can see what's going on with this. And now I'm not saying it's the Soviet Union or Russian collusion or anything like that. What I'm saying is this playbook has been adapted by the left. And next week, we had started to talk about it this week, but we wanted to talk about this No King stuff. Next week, we'll get into that. Yeah, that's right, John. I mean, they want to squash history and they want to redefine terms. You know, used to fascist was somebody. All right, so here's the political science definition of fascist. I don't know if when we talked about Antifa last week, if I mentioned this. It is both a political and economic system in which the government controls the means of production but don't own it. And I mean, that's the economic side of it. But what they say, it's an authoritarian system where the government controls everything, not just the means of production. Whereas the difference between that and socialism is that whereas in fascism, they're actually private business owners, but the businesses are controlled by the government. In socialism and communism, the government owns it all. Socialism, government owns it. Communism, which has never ever been achieved, technically, is it's owned by the people, and the people is the government. There's a little political science education. I got a little nerdy.
A little history lesson.
Yeah. So right now, the government does control a lot of businesses, but they have for years. They control, oil reserves. They control the antitrust stuff with monopolies. They control the stock market and they regulate that. They regulate television. They regulate how much alcohol, and this goes to the state level.
Interest rates. I mean, they regulate a lot.
So in that aspect, that could be seen as a little bit of fascism, but that's been in effect since FDR, dude. I mean, it started in FDR.
And what political party was FDR?
It's funny you bring that up. He was a Democrat.
Oh, no.
He was also a Keynesian Democrat, which is the economic philosophy in which the government actually contributes to wealth in society, as opposed to Adam Smith or Mises or those guys, where the free market controls the economy, which is the way it really should be.
We wouldn't have anywhere near the problems we have if we were more of a
No, and that's the thing. A lot of people are scared to death of what would happen if the free market was allowed to thrive and exist without government intervention. And typically the consumer would control that and regulate that through their activities and how they spend their money and things of that nature.
The problem with that is we'll never get there because people are so reliant on the government control, and anybody who runs on reducing the size of the government, literally with the exception of Trump, gets destroyed in any election.
I don't know.
Most people don't even run on it. But even you look at Trump, part of his pushback is I'm not going to touch Social Security. I'm not going to touch Medicare and Medicaid. So even he has fallen under the political pressure of the masses saying, hey, we want to keep all of this stuff that the government provides for us via our tax dollars.
Right. Yeah.
And until we get out from under that, we're never going to fix this.
I'm afraid we're past the point of no return. When I bring up my libertarian ideas, and I'm small L libertarian, I was a member of the Libertarian Party, but then I realized that libertarians can't agree on what a libertarian should be, and they'll never, in effect, be elected as a result.
But in reality, that's not necessarily libertarian. That's true conservative.
It's classical liberalism is the political science term for it. But yeah, it's what we call modern conservatism, where you want as minimal government intervention from a fiscal standpoint in your life. And victimless crimes should not be regulated or outlawed. The non-aggression principle. If I don't hurt you or infringe on your rights and you don't do the same to me, we're good.
But most conservatives do not want that type of government.
No, you're absolutely right. But
which is why it will never change. Definitely no Democrats want that. But most conservatives do not want it. They like their golf courses and their cushy stuff that the government provides for them, even though it's not necessary.
Well, the main argument I always get is, what about my roads? We had roads before the government built
my roads.
Yeah. And in all reality, who builds the road? The government. It's not the state.
The government takes our tax dollars and hires a private company to build
exactly. That's what happens. Why couldn't we do that locally and do that ourselves?
We could. We could. But
we're too lazy to do it, Dan.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to it. Let's talk a little bit about no kings. All right. If you've been hiding under a rock and you haven't been watching news, there was a little protest on the 18th, this past Saturday, where a bunch of people gathered. I say a bunch of people. It's not as many as they say. So about 6%, well, not even that, maybe 10% of the total numbers that they claim actually got together and protest. And I think in our closest vicinity, I think Fort Walton and Bay County kind of rivaled one another for who had the largest. And based on what I saw from the video from the one in Bay County in Panama City, most of those guys were no Kings protesters. They were conservatives.
Yeah, they take a picture of the crowd and count them all as protesters.
Yeah. So you can't.
There's people out there waving the American flag and Trump's flag, calling them.
You can't really trust the count just for that reason alone. But
well, you know why you can't trust the count is, did you hear what MSNBC did?
Oh, they piped in. They photoshopped or brought some old footage from 2017, a totally different event. And put it in
100%
there.
different, and literally on air commentated that you are live looking in at the No Kings protest in Boston, and there's people on there going, I'm in Boston, the trees aren't green like that this time of year. I mean, it was just debunked immediately. And that is the media that has fed this garbage to these people for 10 plus years, and probably more, but specifically about, the subject today, which is about basically Trump. They fed propaganda to those people for 10 plus years. They did the Russian propaganda in the beginning, and that was debunked. And then you still have arguments with people who don't believe that. Like people who still say he's Putin's boy, which is like absolutely absurd if you paid any attention to reality whatsoever.
There was a rumor.
They don't pay attention.
Speaking
they
of
just
Putin,
they just read the headlines and get excited about it. Sorry, Wes, go ahead.
That's all right. Speaking of Putin, there was a rumor that it was gaining traction on X that Putin had been kidnapped today. Now, there is no verifiable source for that, but it just goes to show you how a rumor and how they manipulate things and how easy it is for people to just believe anything they see. I mean, how many times have we personally shared something and then somebody said, oh, well, that's not true. That's a fake story. That's a troll story.
Sure.
I think last year we even used a piece of video that looked legit, and we put it right here on our broadcast live because it showed up while we were doing it. And I was looking at Twitter. So I grabbed it and threw it in the cast real quick, and then come to find out it was absolute BS.
Well, we spent some time in previous casts pulling up news articles where you'd read the headline and it made this bold statement that caused some emotional reaction. And then 3/4 of the way through the article, it actually debunks the headline in the actual article.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They bury it in there. They get the clickbait. They get it shared because, you know, whoever's believing that crap, they'll share it and put it out there without actually reading the article and getting all of the facts.
And Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, for all the good it does some horrible stuff. It makes people try to be first on these news things and makes them try to be, you know, get followers and get reactions to their posts. And most of it's crap.
Oh, by the way, if anybody's wondering what the rest of my shirt says, it's get in, loser. We're hunting pedophiles.
There you go. Mine says Columbia. Where we'll throw the pedophiles and bury them in that nation.
There you go. Well, here's just proof positive. People don't even know at these No Kings rallies what they were protesting. Check this out.
This is hilarious.
Can I ask you a question about your sign? Yeah. Do you guys mind being recorded? Hey, I just want to know, like, I feel like we've gotten a little bit away from love in this country. Yeah. And your sign
I've been
says
having
we
issues
hate
at the
you for
house
free.
too.
So I just want to know, like, do you think that solves anything?
I know. I'm talking through the little round
hate
circle.
on there is because it's shorter and it fit better onto the sign.
What was it gonna?
All right. So real quick, we had a side conversation, but I want to point out right here, and I will back this up because this. Let me do that. I'm gonna back it up and let you. We'll be quiet this time. Listen to this.
Can I ask you a question about your sign? Yeah. Do you guys mind being recorded? Hey, I just want to know, like, I feel like we've gotten a little bit away from love in this country. Yeah. And your sign says we hate you for free. So I just want to know, like, do you think that solves anything?
No, you know what? I think the hate on there is because it's shorter and it fit better onto.
Okay, so I want to point out something. I've been studying communication and stuff. I've been reading some crazy books lately on communication. This lady says, I think the hate is on there. That is a very important distinction, because rather than saying I placed hate on there, she says, I think. That tells you immediately that is a pure sign that she did not make this sign herself. She got it when she got to the protest. All right, we'll finish it up here.
The sign.
What was
I don't
it gonna
hate
be?
Anybody. What
was it gonna be?
We don't support you, or
we don't like it.
We don't like you. You know, we don't like
it.
So you don't actually approve of your own sign right now? Like,
well, no.
So I mean, yeah, it is, and she had no idea what to put on the sign. Doesn't even know what's going on. How about this?
So what brings you out today?
No King's Day.
And why specifically are you out supporting No King's Day?
I think protest is important.
Why are you protesting?
How much time do you have?
A couple minutes. And what's the main reason you're out here protesting President Trump?
I agree with a lot of the decisions that are being made.
Is there any decision in particular you disagree with?
where, okay, so I would start with, well, I don't even think it's appropriate for me to have this interview.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, ma'am. It is not appropriate because you don't know why you're there. But I do have to give her. I give 10 points to Gryffindor for the Burger King logo with the no kings in it. You gotta give some street cred to that. I mean, that was that's pretty solid. Little Whopper coverage there for you. I'm sure Burger King is appreciating all of the free adverts and bastardizations of their logos. That is hilarious to me.
Just the slogan "No Kings" in itself is absurd.
You're absolutely right. We haven't had a king since 1776 when we sent that little declaration over to the king, King George, and let him know, hey, buddy, we're not playing anymore.
Yeah, we're done with you.
We don't have a king right now. Some of the arguments now. I weeded through a bunch of these videos, and I want to point out that this is just a couple of the videos that's out there. There is a guy, and I forget his name, but he's on Twitter. You can do a little search for.
There's hundreds.
There's hundreds of videos out there like that where people don't even know why they're protesting. So that begs the question of who's organizing this so well that they're getting tens of people, maybe hundreds of people to come out and protest. By the way, anybody wants to chime in with a comment, we would love for you to do that. This is a group conversation. We're just kind of leading it. But you got to ask yourself, who is behind this? Well, guess what? We did a little research, ladies and gentlemen, and we came up with this right here. So you got there's two main organizations that are behind these protests. It's not just this, but they're behind like the Free Palestine stuff. They're behind some of the Antifa stuff. They're behind a lot of the anti-ICE rallies. Same organizations are basically disrupting American life across the country. And that's the 50-51 movement. And they're in 50 states. And I'll give you a little bit more information on them in just a second. And then Indivisible, which is technically a not-for-profit company, a 501c4. You can't donate to them as a tax deduction, but they have a sibling organization called Indivisible Civics, which is a 501c3. Now, let me point out the distinction between a not-for-profit and a non-profit. A non-profit organization is tax deductible if you donate to them. That's your Habitat for Humanities. Those are your non-political organizations. Not-for-profits can be political, but you cannot write off your donations to them. So what they're doing here at Indivisible, if they have this sister organization who is probably gathering funds and then donating it to Indivisible, the not-for-profit. I hope you're following me. There's a lot to go with here. They're probably skating the laws as it comes to a nonprofit organization. Nonprofit cannot support a political side. They cannot endorse candidates. They cannot be left-leaning. If you'll remember, there was a pastor a few years ago that was heavily engaged, and I think he actually supported Obama, heavily engaged in politics, and they threatened to remove his church's 501c3 status because of his support for a political candidate. You can't do that from the pulpit. You can't. Food for Thought can't go out here and support a candidate. A Harvest House, whatever. None of those nonprofits can go out there and do that.
And the 501c3 groups can redact their donor identities. They don't have to name the donors.
501c4s can, 501c3s cannot. That all is supposed to be public record. But we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how organizations can escape that and find anonymous routes.
Mhm.
So who funds 5051? Well, the best and simple answer is we don't know, because that movement describes itself as decentralized. It's built by volunteers and without any budget.
So it doesn't exist like Antifa.
Right. It does not have a centralized structure or official backlog. Sounds very familiar to Antifa, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's got a name and it has money.
It has a name and it has a bunch of money, as
Mhm.
far as we can tell. Now, some of the other groups participate in a group called Public Citizen, ACLU, of course, and there are many more like labor, civil rights organizations and arenas like that.
American Federation of Teachers is a huge donor.
Go figure. That's amazing. You would never know.
There's another one called Center for Biological Diversity. What the hell does that mean?
You know exactly what that means, Dan. You know exactly what that means. That means that just because you got a PP don't mean you got a PP.
Biological diversity. What a freaking oxymoron idiocy that is.
So let's talk about who is the head of Indivisible. So the key leadership and co-founders are Lee Greenberg and Ezra Levine, or Levine. I don't know the pronunciation there. They have prior associations with policy director of Tom Perillo, who is a Virginia campaign, managed anti-trafficking programs, worked at the State Department and on Capitol Hill. So a bureaucrat and insider in the Beltway.
So that Tom Perillo, I'll give you some background. He's a Virginia Democrat who ran for governor in 2017. He was the progressive guy that lost to Ralph Northam. He was endorsed by Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. You can tell where this guy and he mentored this lady.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how that works out, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Ezra Levin he was the director for Federal Policy of Prosperity Now, and I don't know much about that organization, but I do know that it is not about prosperity. It's about
they never are what they're called.
The deputy policy director is for Congressman Lloyd Doggett. I don't know anything about that dude.
I do.
And work with AmeriCorps Vista.
Well, Lloyd Doggett is a Democrat U.S. House representative from the Austin area. So he's one of the longest serving Democrats in the state of Texas in Congress. He got elected in 1995. He's hugely left leaning, and he's very much for universal health care and the Green New Deal type stuff.
Right. I'm uploading a picture that I hope will come through. I don't know if you can see it yet or not.
I see the uploading in line.
We'll let it upload and then we'll come back to it.
You know how I was talking over that other video?
Yeah.
Because it was shown as a circle on my screen. It never loaded. That's why I was talking over it.
Oh, the video never loaded on your end?
Yeah, I thought we were waiting for it to load. That's why I was talking.
Oh, well, I hope it went through for everybody else, because
it did. I went and looked over on my phone. It's going through live on the website. It did.
I got you.
Just done like my laptop.
I'm going to go back to this. This one's still loading. It may not load. It's a list of all the sponsors for the official sponsors for the No Kings in New York City. Now, I'm not going to go through every one of these, but you can look at the Freedom Socialist Party down bottom center.
I see Democrat Socialists of America.
Yep.
Right in the middle top.
Third Act. I don't know what that is, but that sounds socialist. The Climate whatever. I can't read that. It's too small. Here, let me see if I can make it bigger. That's what she said, right? Climate Defenders. You can't hear me while I'm pointing out what that stuff is. But look here, I'm gonna pull it up.
I can hear you.
Make it a little bit bigger here. The New York Working Families Party. That's a socialist organization. I mean, it's just, these are the sponsors. These are the people behind the No Kings protest.
They're all socialist organizations.
And I mean, you know, they like to throw the word democracy around.
But they don't like democracy.
No, they want socialism. And they'll call it democratic socialism. But the thing is if you're socialist, the only people that have a say-so, as we've seen in China and North Korea and the former Soviet Republic and Cuba, is the government. And if you think there are fair elections in those countries, you're wrong. I mean, you just look at North Korea, for example. What are they on their third generation? And everybody just so happened to vote for the son of the previous dictator? No. It's not. I mean, you know what? I may like Trump, but I would never vote for one of his sons just because their last name's Trump. And I would think as long as there are free elections, that's probably going to be the case. As we know with Hunter Biden, Hunter may have been better than Joe, but, you know, we won't get into that. But anyway.
Well, if you ask the Democrats, the last election wasn't free.
Well, if you actually got the facts, the one before that wasn't. So
yeah, and the Democrats who are screaming about democracy are the party that didn't vote for their candidate.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In the primary, Kamala never primaried.
Let's talk a little bit about who's funding all this stuff. So the confirm, all right, I did a deep dive in this. Confirmed contributions, open source, open society foundations, which is George Soros. Tides Foundation, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Fund for a Better Future, Home of the Brave. Sounds very patriotic, doesn't it?
They make everything sound so nice.
Yep. This Swedish or German or some Scandinavian something Weiss, Beer Fest, Oktoberfest name there. Sorry if that's your last name. I don't mean to offend you. And then we've got the speculative claims, which is Warren Buffett, who's a big lib, which is crazy to me because he is one of the richest men in the world. So is Soros. Arabella Advisors Network, Ford Foundation, Rockefeller. That brings me back to that cabal conversation. Open Society Foundations, and then the Tides Foundation once again. So the open
that Arabella Advisors Network is it's an umbrella that has multiple entities under it, like the New Venture Funds, the 1630 Fund, Hopewell Fund, the Windward Fund, and the North Fund. Most of those are 501c4s in which they can hide their donors list. And the 1630 Fund I did some research on this. It's a progressive political funding nonprofit based in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 501c4, and it's a social welfare organization.
Oh, okay.
So it can spend heavily on political advocacy, lobbying, and election issues. So it's protected in that area, and they don't have to disclose their donors. Huge money in there. Your 79 million is under that umbrella. There's multiple smaller entities underneath.
Several entities in there.
Yeah.
Well, they say these are speculative claims, but if we just looked at Tides Foundation alone, Tide Foundation's biggest contributors are the Novo Foundation, the Ford Foundation, which is down below in the speculative, the Open Society, which is the number one up there, Influence Watch, Rockefeller Brothers Fund, William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, Bauman Family Foundation. So the big thing is that this is where they hide the money. This is what I was referring to a few minutes ago. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, there's only a few of you watching right now. You're not finding this information anywhere else online. No other news organization, no other media company is giving you the stuff that Driveway Liberty Podcast is giving you right now. So be sure to share this broadcast. Say, hey, look, dude, I'm getting this valuable educational information about all these things right here in just an hour podcast. That being said, so what the Tides Foundation does is they use donor advised funds, DAFs, meaning that many donations come in without public disclosure. So we don't know who the ultimate donor is, because the nature of the DAFs and the structure of Tides grant making, fiscal sponsorship, and the tracing exact sources kind of gets tricky, and some donors remain anonymous.
Yep.
So they could be getting money from whoever. I mean, Soros could be done. You know, that dude's a multi-billionaire. He could be giving them $20 million a year.
Well, the money comes in and then it flows through a bunch of different organizations. And I was telling you earlier about that 1630 fund, which is under that Arabella Advisors Network, which was the $79 million one you had up there. That organization acts as the fiscal sponsor for these rallies.
Right.
So they handle the money, they handle the compliance, the logistics, permits, all that stuff, not just for the No Kings, but most of the national progressive movements. And let me just tell you the numbers on this organization. In 2022, the 1630 Fund reported over $190 million in revenue, $183 million in expenses, making one of the largest political nonprofits in the country. This is the dark money that they talk about. The Democrat dark money. It's in there. So because it's a 501c4, it can hide all of its donors. So they don't have to tell you Soros gave me this money.
Right.
And that's why it's hard to kind of find the actual list or things. You know, I tried to find out who bought the signs because you showed the video of the lady who didn't make her sign, obviously. And you can't find that information. Like the signs, you can tell there's a lot of them because that Indivisible, which is the organization that you talked about at the very beginning, they have a store. They have an online store where you can buy signs from them. So people or these smaller groups will buy signs from them. So the money stays in-house.
Right.
You're buying signs. So you're not going and buying it at, your local printer. You're not supporting local businesses. You're buying it from the people who are funding the money. So it just kind of stays in and rolls.
Well, if you go out, it doesn't necessarily just stay in, Dan, because there has been, in the past, there's been Craigslist ads where you can get paid to protest.
Oh, yeah.
These other sites that they use where they pay protesters, and they come out and say, hey, you know what? You come out from 9 till lunch and we're going to pay you $200 cash money or a gift card or whatever. And we were offered a job during the campaign from the Democrats. You remember the text we got?
Yes.
We're paying you to go out and in your community, blah, 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 blah. So what they're doing with these millions of dollars, because really, if it's an organic grassroots movement, and this is the crux of it, if this is a true movement where these people genuinely feel this strongly about this information, you wouldn't have to pay them. What's up, Joe?
Not real.
Right. You know what? I mean, we felt strongly. I tell you, a prime example is when the hospital here locally was forcing their staff and firing staff for not taking the COVID vaccine. And a group of people on their own, because they felt passionate about this, that weren't even employees of the hospital, went out and stood on 98 and protested at a hospital. Nobody paid those people to do that. They felt passionate enough about what was going on that they took action on their own. When you go out to these campaigns, especially these county-wide campaigns, congressional campaigns, there is some few paid staff that's actually stand out campaigning. I was one at one time, where you go down to the polls and you hold the signs up on election day. Yeah. But county paid. You go out there, and you know as well as I do, we go to poll. They're standing outside the no electioneering placards, and there are people volunteering because they feel passionate about that candidate to campaign on their 100%, behalf.
100%. Hey, you know who took out a full page ad in the New York Times to support the No Kings?
I give up.
Christy Walton.
Oh, really?
Heiress.
Come on, from the Walmart? Yeah, well, she's already funded a bunch of this stuff. You and I talked about that a couple of months ago when we were on our break.
Yeah.
I mean, congrats on the new studio, Joe. Can't wait to see it, dude. By the way, everybody, if you don't know Joe Phillips, that's Smoking Joe from the Cracker Culture podcast. They're down in South Florida. They face some of the same things we do up here in our county. And you should check him out. He's on YouTube. He's also he's on Facebook, has a Twitter and a TikTok channel. Go check him out. It's called Cracker Culture. I'll type it in here. The Cracker Culture podcast. But what's scary about this stuff is the fact that these people, for a buck, are being manipulated and used as pawns. We talked about useful idiots last week, and unfortunately, that's what's going on here. Now, so the question, this begs the question: can it be fixed? Number one, and if so, how?
They're literally out there saying they're protesting for the things that they actually want and have voted for in the past. Like if they were truly honest, they would have been out there protesting Obamacare, COVID vaccines. They would have been protesting all these things if they were truly standing for what they're claiming they stand for.
Well, what's the old phrase? People don't want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear what they have to say coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Well, I think you go one step forward further with this. People don't want to hear a good idea from the guy they disagree with.
Which puts a wedge in everything. That's to your point of, can we fix this?
Well, and that's where I'm at. I don't know.
If you can't have conversations with people and actually get to the point where you agree on the actual facts, and then get, like it used to be, you agreed on the problem or the situation. You just had different views of how to deal with it.
Right.
That's gone. You can't even agree on the problem anymore.
I love what Smoking Joe said right here.
I saw that.
That's right, Joe. You can't be a prophet in your own hometown, brother. You cannot. It's one of the things I find myself doing, you and I will frequent establishments locally sometimes for an adult beverage. One of the things I find myself doing, if conversation turns to politics, first thing I ask before I even engage anybody is, can you discuss this and listen and without getting angry? And they say, well, no, I'm very passionate about that. People they'll back up. That takes them aback a little bit, number one. But so many people want to argue argue. They don't want to argue to learn. And this goes back to Charlie Kirk, man. I'm telling you what, that dude has really, sadly, through his passing, I mean, a lot of what he says just kind of really resonates. Is when we engage in civil discourse where there's a potential for disagreement, we should engage just as much to listen as to talk. Because if we don't hear the opposition's side, at least hear them out, whether we agree with it or not.
Just think about how our country was formed. When they were writing the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, they fought tooth and nail. Mm-hmm. There was screaming and yelling, fights. If you read the history books, most of them thought it was never going to get done.
Right.
And eventually, the people who were there argued to listen. They built compromise in as a part of it, and they ended up with the greatest country ever, the greatest document to run a country ever. Right. If we ever got back to that, what could the United States be with modern technology and the money and all the stuff that we have at our disposal now? If we ever got to the point where we could actually solve problems by discussing them, coming up with solutions, what kind of country could we really have? And you know what? That's the crux of it. They don't want us to be that country. So there's people that are funding, manipulating, trying to tear it down, or at least weaken it to the point where it's just the same as all the other countries.
Well, here's the question. I'm going to throw this philosophical out here, and maybe you and I can talk a little bit about it before we run out of time here. But maybe this is also kind of a homework thing for everybody else to think about. Because there is a movement to form a Continental Congress and revamp the Constitution. Is there anything in the Constitution as it sits today, with all Supreme Court decisions, all preceding, additions via the Supreme Court, is there anything in there that you would change at all?
I would clarify some things. I would reword the Second Amendment so that there's no question.
I don't think there's really a question there.
But you eliminate the argument. Well, I guess you're right, because with the exception of some state and local laws that are really, if somebody went up against them, they're unconstitutional. And we find that out here in Florida, which is now an open carry state because somebody challenged the constitutionality of not allowing open carry.
There's a video I watched the other night of a deputy in a more liberal Florida county. Believe it or not, we do have a couple of those.
Yeah, we have a few.
Where the deputy was actually harassing a guy that was concealed carrying. And that's been, and the guy kept telling him, the guy ended up being an FBI agent. He was investigating corruption in this very police department. The guy told him, he says, this is Florida. I don't need a concealed carry permit. I'm not breaking the law. I don't have a felony. I don't need one. So, all right, John Nash says term limits for Congress. Now, possibly, I don't disagree with that. Here's one that I would look at. I'm not saying change it, but look at regulating a little bit more. And that is freedom of, or truth in press. We have laws about truth in advertising. But with the press is allowed to go out and editorialize anything that they want. And they are allowed to manipulate the information and the data. I would prefer the press be restricted to just facts, unless it was advertised as editorial or politically slanted in some way. Now, how you word that and how you regulate that and how you get around the legalese that would be required to do that without infringing on somebody's right to free press and speech, I don't know. but that would be something that I would want to look at.
I'll be honest with you. I am strongly against doing this. Not your particular instance, but doing, amending the Constitution. Because if we have, what's the number? You need to have 30.
You need 3/4 of, I mean, if you do a states convention, you need 3/4 of the states to agree on it, to change it.
Yeah. So then you open yourself up to, do you trust the people who are in leadership that would be making the decisions, changing the Constitution?
Exactly. That's the
I do not. I absolutely do not. So I'm completely against that, because when was the last time that we actually looked at our government and pick one, any level, where we were like, you know what? I truly trust these people. It's the smartest people in position. It's the people who make the best judgments, the best decisions, given the information they have. I don't know if it's even happened in my lifetime. Like, I don't trust. It's not that I don't trust government. That's true. I don't. But the people who make up our government are shit. They are not good people. They're not.
So Joe brings up a point. I'm pro-gun. The problem is that when you open carry, many are not intelligent enough to understand the consequences, public displays of open carry. You walk into a Publix with an AR on your back, someone is going to challenge your ability to use the weapon. I do not necessarily disagree with you there. I don't think, look, I'm for open carry, but you will never see me open carry, because I've mentioned this before. You lose a tactical advantage if you are carrying. First guy that's going to get shot by the bad guy is the guy that you can see wearing the gun. So you're right. Somebody will challenge somebody's ability to use that weapon. And it is, but as a true liberty related guy, I have no issue with somebody wearing it.
Well,
it's
you
going
and I
to sound mean. Hold on, let me get this out. It's going to sound mean, because if I'm in the same area, if I'm in the same Publix, I've got an additional tactical advantage.
you got a body shield.
It's like tripping the guy when you're running from the bear. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to be the fastest runner. I just got to trip that dude before I get out of the way. Don't have to outrun the bear.
You and I have had this discussion a lot about open carry, and I've been a huge advocate. It irritated me when they changed the concealed carry law to be permitless and didn't include open carry.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, we've been open carry for a month and a half now.
Yeah, late August. I think it went into effect mid-September.
And you know how many times I've open carried? 0.
And how many people have you seen open carry?
I really haven't seen any.
I haven't either. And I would imagine, now I think if we got up a little further north, up in Chipley or Ponce, or you may have some good old boys out there that might want to do that. And that's, you know what? I mean, I think I mentioned before, I've been growing up, we'd walk into a bait and tackle store and somebody was opening. The guy that owned the music store that I did most of the business with when I lived in Southwest Georgia, in Albany, Georgia, that guy always open carry because he'd been robbed 3 times. And he practiced quick draw. But it was a common occurrence growing up, but I wouldn't do it.
If you're in a situation like that, it's a lot faster to draw from open than it is from concealed. Not a lot faster, but it is faster. But you can be good at both. But if you're talking about running a business that has been a target, I can see somebody open carrying in that scenario.
Absolutely.
I may just put my paddle holster on and wear my 45 to Publix one day just for shits and giggles.
Joe says he's seen young kids in Publix. Like, when you say young, I mean old enough to own a gun, right? I mean,
Well, you got to be 21 now.
You still got to be 21 to carry. Did they lower the rifle to 18? Is that back to 18 now or no?
I don't think it's
Long
passed
gun?
yet. I think it's in the process.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully they're 21, but I mean, you got some ballsy young kid. Those are the ones you have to worry about. They still got piss and vinegar, and they're wanting to prove a bunch of stuff to folks. I'm too old for that. I'm just
The temperament of society today it makes it for a precarious situation.
Yeah. I'm gonna hide behind the produce and shoot you when you ain't looking. That's what I'm gonna do.
I'm not gonna hide behind the produce. I'm gonna hide behind like something much more ballistically sound.
Some spaghetti sauce. Yeah. I don't like that canned spaghetti sauce anyway. I need to stand by.
I'd rather be behind the meat counter than the produce counter.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, let's look at one more thing on this No Kings related thing here. This is a tweet I found in regard to when I was looking at these people who weren't even making their own signs. And this Laney the Hufflepuff was a Harry Potter fan. If you aren't working during weekdays, you can go to the printing place to design signs and print them off before the weekend, then gift them to protesters. That's why so many protesters don't know what's on their sign and what they're protesting for. It's a weekend hobby for them. So next big protest, like, oh, sorry.
Do you guys mind being recorded?
I clicked the wrong button. Next big protest like this, I'm going to print up a bunch of signs that just say stupid shit and go out there and hand, hey, your protest today? Here, take this. And shoot video and just see how many people carry the stupid signs. I mean,
so you know what I thought was funny? Like I saw some coverage of the protests in our area. So we had one in Fort Walton Beach, which is about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the time of the year.
Right.
And then depending on where you live in our county, same thing for the Bay County one.
Well, there was one in Defuniak Springs, but I think.
And then there's Defuniak, which is close to an hour from where we are. So everything's about 45 minutes to an hour away. And as you look at them, there was people that were wearing those kind of inflatable Halloween costume. You know, you see the kids running around with a dinosaur or a chicken or whatever.
Yeah.
There's people wearing those type of outfits. And you know who those people were?
They
were the husbands of the ladies who had signs that didn't know what they meant. So think about that for a minute. And most of them were older than me.
And they're out there wearing the dinosaur costumes.
Yeah. I mean, I was laughing when I was watching it. Going, please keep doing this because you people are making fools of yourself. You're not accomplishing anything.
Okay. All right. You done?
No.
I got a comment to make along those same lines. I can't remember if this was some AI thing or not, but it was a dude that said, my wife's boyfriend thought this would be a great bonding experience for us.
And it was.
So that kind of speaks to that kind of thing, man. It's
your beta males out there with the.
There was a guy dressed as from he sprayed the fart spray.
That's a good idea.
Somebody did that in one of the protests. Somebody sprayed the fart spray in one of those blow up costumes of the guy. He is throwing up on himself. That would be funny. It's a sad state. I don't know what the answers are. I don't know how we get back to actual civil discourse. I do not know what the No Kings protest achieved.
I know what we can't do. We can't give up. We have to keep trying to have those conversations.
Right.
And if it was thousands of people like Charlie Kirk, and not necessarily his message, but just the way in which he interacted with people that he disagreed with, more than anything. I mean, I agree with his message, but
that's what I'm trying to do.
To be able to interact with people in a civil manner when you don't disagree, even when you don't agree, and even when you know you have no chance of agreeing, you can still have conversations with people. And I've had very passionate and emotional conversations with people, and you walk away. I met people at Halloween parties in the past where they're like, you know what? I don't agree with it. They've said to me, I don't agree with anything you've said, but I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
It was intellectual. I learned a few things. You learned a few things. And you know what? Let's get together for dinner next week.
And that's the thing. There is something exciting about an engaging debate that makes you think. Because even if you don't agree at that moment.
Dude, why do you think college football is so freaking popular?
Yeah.
We don't like each other's teams. We don't agree on the coaches. We don't agree on the decision making. We hate each other's football teams.
Right.
But we love each other and freaking have a great time.
And part of the fun is busting each other's balls.
Yeah. Why can't we treat other things like that?
Oh, we can't, Dan. We can't. I agree with you. And I think if I didn't learn anything at all from Charlie Kirk's passing, it was being patient with others. Because now I used to, I think we talked about this. I would initially try to logically engage with somebody, and then I would go full on nuclear option, you know, as soon as they start calling me names or whatever. Now I've got a 4-step process. I'll try to engage 4 times. I will dispute. If I disagree with you, I will dispute something. If there's something I see in your statement that I can agree with you on and still, you know, tell you why I feel differently about other points you're making, and we're having civil discourse, I will engage in that all day long.
Yeah. The
minute you start calling me pedo lover, like that one guy did on Cheyenne's post the other day, that's when it's, you know, atomic elbow comes out, the bull of the woods.
Yeah, that guy's
power.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, that's when I start getting mean. Before, I wouldn't do that. I would get mean pretty quickly. So in his example, his Christian example, Charlie has really showed us a way to maybe have a actual positive impact. So maybe that's the solution there.
Yeah. If we had a country of Charlie Kirks, we would not be in this situation.
So Joe, he brings up a point. I open the show to any politician who I don't agree with, and I want to understand why they think they do. Man, yeah, same. That's the way we've done in the past. We've had people on we didn't agree with their policies. We love them as people. We haven't had a single. We've had one person on this show that I don't like, and I think it was very obvious during that show that I didn't like him. Because he didn't come in to debate and actually have a conversation. He came in to incite, and that irritated me. He came in rude and arrogant, and you know, that's not the way you enter an actual political conversation or debate.
Yep.
Everybody else that we've had on this show, most of them, there's at least a couple of points that I or Dan or back when Travis was on did not agree with them on. Doesn't mean I hate you as a person. I separate that. I always found it interesting, even with that guy we were debating with yesterday, Dan, on my feed, and everybody on here I think is just about friends with me. If not, most of my stuff on my page is public, so you can view it. I lost my point. We were civil with that guy. And I told you in a private text, I was like, he's a good dude. I liked him. And he's just hates Trump.
Yeah, but he didn't. His conversation style was deflective, changing subjects.
He You know,
the whole straw man stuff coming out every time. He wouldn't address, like you tried to go back a couple times to get the initial question answered, and he wouldn't. He just kept going on some rant about, you know, con man and this and con man that, like basically calling us stupid for having the views we have and supporting.
And that's when I dropped the entire Epstein list in the second post and tagged him in it. So
yeah,
I'm like, I'm not a fool.
Like when
I compiled this list.
Well,
so.
you saw what I replied to him in the last one, and I'm like, just go back and answer the question. You keep diverting to other things, and then he disconnected. Like when people can't admit they're wrong.
And let's be honest, though. Let's be absolutely honest. It is probably one of the most difficult thing, and it's a pride thing. It's definitely a pride thing. One of the most difficult things to do on this planet is admit when we're wrong.
Well,
Nobody.
I understand because I did it. I was a Democrat my whole life.
There you go. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining in. Please share the podcast with your friends. If you know of a business that is conservative or liberty-minded that would like to sponsor this cast, we'd like to keep bringing you this education, this in-depth look at stuff that you're not getting elsewhere. We would absolutely love to do that. And if you would like to support us individually, you could go get you one of these shirts right here, a Driveway Liberty shirt. Man, how patriotic is that bad boy, right? That's a sexy shirt, my friends. It even makes a fat guy like me look good. So you go check that out. Or if you don't want a shirt, you want to be a little bit more private, you could go and scan that little QR code up there, and it'll take you to PayPal. Or I could do this right here. Let me see. It's the begging for money part. It's the PBS. Keep us on the air. You can buy us a cup of coffee by going to paypal.biz/the driveway. Guys, for Dan, I am your Uncle Wes. I love you very much. Thank you all so much for watching the broadcast. We'll see you next week, and we will talk about Yuri Bezmenov. And you're going to be, it's going to be amazing. You're going to see so much stuff going on there. Take care. Till next week.
You